Hello students, welcome to the Rapid Revision Route. Yes, so in this video of the Rapid Revision Route, we are going to revise the topic exemption. Now, when talking about the word exemption, first of all, let us have the meaning of the word exemption. Now, what do you mean by exemption? In exemption, there is a negative list created here in the GST. In that list of supply of goods or supply of services, if this service comes under this list or goods comes under the list, the goods and services will be out of the purview of GST tax. Yes. So exemption is basically a list in which the supplies of goods and services which are listed in it are out of the boundaries of GST for a temporary time of period, for a temporary period of time. In future, after and issuing any notification, the government may tax that goods or services also. But up till now, for today itself, they are away from this purview of tax. Yes, they are supply. It is a supply. They are taxable also. But for a particular period of time, we are not applying any taxes on this type of goods or services. Now let us have a look. When we are talking about exemption, it starts with section number 11. Now, in the section number 11, there are three parts: 11.1, 11.2, 11.3. Now, what 11.1 talks about? 11.1 talks about general exemption. Yes, the government by notification may exempt generally any types of goods or service either wholly or partly. Yes, any service in general exemption, this exemption notification will apply to the public at large. Yes, everyone. Yes, and 11.2 talks about exemption by special order. The government may, if it feels necessary in case of public interest, may issue any special order for the exemption of such particular goods or services for a specific person. So this exemption of special order will not be applicable to everyone at the public at large. No. And if the government feels that it should issue any circulars or clarification regarding these two notifications or special order or general exemption, so within 1 year of the issue of the notification, the government can provide the clarification on that particular notification. So coming towards the chapter, goods exempt from tax. See, this is the list of goods which are exempt from tax. Unbranded atta, maida, besan. Yes, I'm not talking about fortune atta. It's a branded one, so it will be taxable. It will not be exempt. But unbranded atta, yes, normally you are giving atta, wheat flour in a particular packing with no brand name. In that case, it will be unbranded atta, and GST will not be leviable. Unpacked food grains, fresh vegetables, fresh milk, egg, Indian national flag, plastic bangles. So all these things are out of the purview of GST because of exemption. So if exempt, no tax will be leviable on this products. Now, this is all about goods. Now coming towards the main portion, services exempt from tax. Now, if you'll see, there are a number of services which are exempt from tax, and each services is having a particular entry number. Yes, so no requirement of learning the entry number, just require to learn the content of the entry properly. Now, for that purpose, what we have created, and the module itself have created particular sectors which is related with each and every entry. Now, talking about the first sector, services will be distributed in different sectors, and we are going to revise this sector wise. So when we are talking about religious and charitable, all religious charitable activities of services will related with these activities will come under this sector only. So we are studying this at one place, forming a particular sectors. So first sector, service related to charitable and religious activities. Now, first of all, we have to see this. Any entity registered under section 12AA and 12AB of the Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Act, providing any services by way of charitable activities will be exempt. So that entity is registered under the Income Tax Act and providing charitable activities. Yes, doing charitable activities. That charitable activity entries, the entity and its supply will be exempt. Sir, what are the charitable activities? Let's see the charitable activities. See, number one, advancement of educational programs, skill development relating to abandoned, orphaned, homeless children. Yes, any orphanage, any organization running orphanage which is registered under the Income Tax Act as an entity, yes, and doing this type of charitable activity of running an orphanage, exempt. physically, mentally abused, traumatized person, giving training to like such person, giving training to prisoners, giving training to the persons over the age of 65 years residing in the rural areas, giving training to this people by any entity which is registered in the Income Tax Act, it will be termed as charitable activity. And if charitable activity, it will be exempt from tax. Yes. Now, public health by way of care and counseling of terminally ill person or with severe physical mental disability, person affected with HIV/AIDS, person addicted to dependence forming substance like drugs and alcohol. Yes, you are giving any care or counseling to such person, any organization, any entity, or creating public awareness by way of announcing and promoting ads and like these things, creating public awareness, these things, charitable activities, arranging yoga and meditation camps. Yes, best example, Ramdev Baba arranging yoga camps by charitable trust, management of educational institution by charitable trust, any NGO arranging education for any type of students, educational institutions, hostel accommodation provided by the trust, advancement of religion, spirituality or yoga. Yes, preservation of environment, hospitals managed by the charitable trust. So these all are termed as charitable activities, and if done by any entity registered under the Income Tax Act in the prescribed sections, it will be exempt. Now coming towards religious activities. Number one, conduct of religious ceremony. Best example, the priest, Pandit. Yes, Pandit forming, the priest is doing religious ceremony, say for example, marriage ceremony or housewarming party, house ceremony, any yagya, any type of say puja is there. Yes, so any type of religious ceremony done or conducted, no GST will be leviable on that. It is exempt from tax. And the another one provided by the religious sectors is the renting of their premises. They can give their premises on rent. Yes, what rents they will receive when giving rooms, they can rent the rooms in the religious trust. Yes, and shops they can rent the shops. As you visit in any say temple, outside their shops are there. If any shops is in the premises of that particular religious places, so the shop rent. And the premises for kalyana mandapam or any other purpose, the community hall of that premises. So it should be taken care of that the rent of the room should be less than 1000 rupees per day. The shop rent should be less than 10,000 rupees per month. The premises and the hall rent should be less than 10,000 rupees per day. If it is so, then only it will be exempt. Otherwise, it will be taxable. Yes, and any services by way of pilgrimage. Two pilgrimage are covered: Mansarovar Yatra, Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, and Hajj pilgrimage. This two pilgrimage provided by the government, any person supporting to the government for providing this pilgrimage will also be exempt. So this is all about the first sector, religious and charitable activities. Now second, agriculture related services. When talking about agriculture related services, the important word is the agricultural produce. What do you mean by agricultural produce? See in front of you. Agricultural produce means any produce out of cultivation of plant or rearing all life forms of animal except rearing of horses. Say you are doing, you are having any produce out of cultivation of that plants or out of using any animals, say milk of a cow or wool from the sheep. It is rearing all life forms of animal except rearing of horses. Why are you doing this? For food, fiber, fuel, raw material, or other similar products. Yes, on which either no further processing is done or such processing is done as is usually done by a cultivator or producer. Such a production or cultivation of plant or rearing all life forms of animal on which no further processing is done, or if done, it does not alter the essential characteristics of that produce. We are doing any further processing on that particular produce only to make it marketable in the primary market, and that too not in the retail market, only in the primary market. We are doing further processing to make it marketable in the primary market, which do not alter the essential characteristics of that product. See for example, potato, when some further processing is done, it become french fries. Now it has altered the essential characteristics of that agricultural produce. Yes, so this final product will not be an agricultural produce. Again, milk, fresh milk is agricultural produce, but when further processing is done and this produce is called as pasteurized milk, then Further processing done, essential characteristics are altered. So that's why now this not will not be an agricultural produce. Like this paddy and rice. Rice is not an agricultural produce, but the agricultural produce from which rice is made after further processing paddy is an agricultural produce. So this is the definition of agricultural produce. Now let's see the agriculture related services. Now see the services related with agriculture produce first. Agricultural operation services or any process. See, agriculture operational services or any process. I will just give an example. Say for example, threshing, cutting, pruning, testing, etc., etc., plant protection, like these things, when done on a farmland, yes, and which do not alter the essential characteristics of that product, only make it marketable for primary market. In that case, this process and agricultural operations done on the farmland will be exempt. Yes. Supply farm labor, the laborers working on the farm, yes, their services exempt. Renting of that agriculture land, yes, or agro machineries. Loading, unloading, packing, storage, warehousing of agricultural produce, yes. Any services by way of loading, unloading, packing, warehousing, storing of that agricultural produce related with that will be exempt. Agriculture extension services, services by APMC committees. APMC or any board, agricultural board, providing any services that will be exempt along with the services of the commission agent of that APMC market. Yes, everybody know what is APMC, where the farmer comes and finally sell their produce, the primary market. Service by way of intermediate production process as a job work. Say if you are doing any intermediate production process on the agricultural produce that is not altering the essential characteristics, it is to just make it marketable. So in that case, the intermediate process, production process done will also be exempt. Service by way of storage, warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits and vegetables exempt. Service by a warehousing of minor forest produce. And the last one important, loading, unloading, packing, storage, warehousing of rice. Because rice is not an agricultural produce. So the things related with the rice are specifically differently mentioned here by way of loading, unloading, packing, storage, warehousing of rice. That will be exempt. So this is all about the agriculture related services. Now coming towards the passenger transport services. Now see the source of transportation: road, railways, airways, waterways. Coming towards the first one, road. Now what are the mode of conveyance when transportation is done by road? Bus or others. In that bus also two types: stage carriage, contract carriage. Stage carriage is of the government bus, contract carriage is the private buses. Yes, if it is a stage carriage and it is an AC one, then it is taxable. Also contract carriage, if it is an AC, then also taxable. Yes, contract carriage also taxable if AC, and stage carriage is also taxable in case of air condition. But in case of non-AC, stage carriage is exempt. But when we are talking about contract carriage, in case of non-AC, check whether the bus is hired one for the purpose of personal use, tourism like this, or there is a point-to-point transport. Point-to-point transport means transportation of passenger. You have booked the ticket and you have booked the ticket of a bus. Now you are going to have the journey, and when at the destination, the bus is going to drop you at the predetermined points. That is called as point-to-point transport. If point-to-point transport is there, then this will be exempt. But if you have hired a non-AC contract carriage bus, then it will be 100% taxable, subject to one exemption. When it is hired for the purpose of transportation of employees to and from workplace, yes, and where the contract carriage is non-AC one, hire, it is taxable. But there is one exception: when this is hired only for the purpose of transportation of the employees from to and from work. This is the number one clarification. Yes. Now number two, others. In case of others, meter rickshaw, auto rickshaw, meter cab, these are exempt. But talking about other cabs like Ola, Uber, private taxis, it will be taxable. It will be taxable. Only this is exempt. Now one more clarification regarding this. Though this is exempt, but if say I am taking example of this auto. This auto is normally providing his transportation services, which is exempt. Yes, exempt. But now today this auto registered on Ola or Rapido. This auto registered itself on Ola or Rapido. Now, as soon as this auto registered on Ola or Uber or Rapido, these are e-commerce operator. Yes, e-commerce operator. If this auto is registered on any e-commerce operator, the exempt supply now will become taxable and paid tax under the reverse charge. Yes, under section 9(5), e-commerce operator will pay the tax. This is the second clarification. So remember, as by default, these services are exempt, but if supplied through eco, this exempt services will become taxable and tax will be paid by the eco under reverse charge. Now, rail. When talking about railways, AC coaches and the first class are taxable, other are exempt. When talking about metro, monorail, tramway, these are exempt. Yes, looking forward to the waterways. Waterways vessel. When vessel is for tourism purpose, taxable, other purpose exempt. Inland waterways exempt. Yes, no need of explanation here. We are just revising it. Yes, you can see the chart and just revise it. Now, air. Now, this needs an explanation. Now, when we are talking about air, we have to remember some locations. Yes, we have to remember some locations like this: Meghalaya, Assam, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Tripura, and Bagdogra. Bagdogra is in West Bengal. Yes, location is West Bengal. Now, when we are talking about this location, any aircraft which is say having a takeoff from this place or which is arriving on this places, which is having a departure from these places or arriving to such places. Yes, departing and arriving both, and from anywhere in the India, from anywhere in India, say from Delhi to Assam you have to go, or from Assam to Delhi you have to go. In both cases, if any aircraft is departing and arriving at such location, the economy fare of that particular aircraft will be exempt. Yes, the economy fare of that particular aircraft will be exempt from tax. And in case of other location, it will be taxable. Yes. Now, sir, we have to learn this location. Yes, you can learn it. That location MAMA, Mama, NAG, Nag, MNI, Money, Nag Money. Sit, SIT, sit. Sit means it is there at Bagdogra. We can pronounce it as Mama Nagmani sit at Bagdogra. Yes, MAMA Mama Nagmani SIT sit at Bagdogra. So you can learn like this. Last clarification related with this. Yes, last clarification: RCS, Regional Connectivity Schemes, Airport. See, to increase the connectivity of airplanes in between the cities, what government did, government has given a proposal that whosoever is going to establish airport under this scheme, RCS, Regional Connectivity Scheme, whosoever, which city, whichever with the city, who is going to establish airport under this RCS scheme, we are going to exempt the tax portion on the flights which are going to arrive and depart from such location up to 3 years, and also fill the viability gap. What means viability gap? Because see, in small locations it may happen that the whole flight is not booked, some seats are vacant, so the aircraft will have loss in carrying on the passenger from that location. So that loss, in case of that loss, viability gap fund is being created by the government, and the losses of that company will be taken care of by the government. So this is all about the passenger transport services, legal services. Yes, talking about legal services and entertainment services. So let us first take the entertainment service. Now, entertainment service divided into two types. Yes, and the two types. First one, artist, performance by the artist. When the artist perform services by way of performance in any folk or classical art form, any music, dance or theatre, where the consideration charge is less than equal to 1,50,000, then it will be exempt. But this provision does not apply in case of brand ambassador. Yes. So in case of brand ambassador, though they have performed services like this, but they have received a single rupee for that performance, it will be taxable. No benefit of limit also to the brand ambassador. Yes. There is no exemption given for a single rupee to the brand ambassador. Others cases will have the exemption limit up to rupees 1,50,000. Now, right to admission too. Yes, paying a ticket, admission ticket. Yes, admission ticket. Now, in case we are paying admission ticket for this places, you can see the places: circus, dance, award function, concert, or planetarium. Yes, where the consideration is less than equal to 500 rupees per person. If the consideration is less than equal to 500 rupees per person, then the things will be exempt, otherwise taxable. But when we are visiting these locations of protected monuments and a museum, national parks, wildlife sanctuary, tiger reserve, or zoo, here there is no limit of amount. Like 500 it is here. There is no limit of amount in these two cases. So any amount of ticket per person they charge, it will be wholly exempt. Now coming towards legal services. Now coming towards legal services. In case of legal services, you can remember we have discussed this thing in the river charge also. Yes, river charge, section number 9.3. River charge in case of supply of service. In that case, it was like any legal services provided by an advocate, former advocate or senior advocate to a business entity located in taxable territory, the same will be under river charge. Now discussing about what exemptions have been given here. Say when any services provided by a firm of advocate or individual advocate, either a firm of advocate or individual advocate. In these two cases, as an advocate, they provide any service to another advocate or firm of advocate. One advocate providing services to another advocate, it will be exempt. When this service and the service of arbiter tribunal and senior advocate services provided to government, then it will be exempt. When these are provided to business entity, now here the river charge comes into act. We have learned this that any legal services provided by advocate to business entity located in taxable territory, it comes under river charge. Now see, though it is river charge, but if the aggregate turnover of the business entity is less than what is required to make them liable for registration in section number 22 and 24. If in section 22-24 the business entity is not liable for registration up till now, then this type of business entity, the services will be exempt. But if that business entity is liable for registration or already registered person, then it will be taxable under reverse charge. Like this exemption is there for legal services. You can see in the chart itself. Now, next, goods transport services. Now, when talking about transportation by road, either courier or GTA, either courier or goods transport agency, both will be taxable. Both will be taxable, and GTA also taxable in case it was provided to notified person. That also we have seen in the reverse charge chapter. Yes, you may see the video of reverse charge chapter to revise the same. Yes, in the reverse charge it was like that. Reverse charge GTA provides services by transportation of road to a notified person. So what is the definition of notified person? We have discussed earlier there. So it is provided to notified person, then only taxable, otherwise exempt. Otherwise exempt. Yes, otherwise exempt. Now, when transportation is done of goods through inland waterways, it will be exempt. And if done to any other ways, railways, vessel, airways, other ways, it will be 100% taxable. So keep this in mind. Now, coming towards some exception to this rule. Now, as we have seen that through rail, vessel, and GTA, goods are taxable. But in case of this Dr. Mona, in case of this Dr. Mona, if transported through rail, vessel, or GTA, it will be exempt. If this rail, vessel, or GTA transportation services are provided for Dr. Mona, this the goods of Dr. Mona, then it will be exempt. Sir, what is Dr. Mona? D for defense, R for relief material, M for milk, salt, food grains, etc. etc. O for organic manure, N for newspaper magazines, and A for agricultural produce. So this is all about the exemption part of Dr. Mona. Yes, this is all about goods transport services. Now there was a good clarification on this. Imagine that have you seen any mining area in your life, or say in movies also? I think 99% of you have seen the movies mining area scene. Yes, seen in mining area in the movies. In that mining area, it is like that there is a, say, for example, a land. They explode the land and they dig it like this and they form a mining area. they dig it and form a mining area. Now the mining area pit is there. From there minerals are extracted and that too transported up to the top, going vehicle like this round and round and round up to the top, and at the top that is shifted from that conveyance to another conveyance, yes, and then transported further. So here we are not talking about transportation of that vehicle. Have you ever seen in a movie or any real life location of mining sites, there are different type of vehicles which are specifically used for the transportation of minerals or mined products in the mining. Yes, like tippers, dumpers, loaders, trucks, which are used to carry the extract from the mining pit to the upper portion of that particular area, from where it will be further transported. Now, we are not talking about here of transportation of that goods. What we are talking about, say, if any person has taken this vehicles on rent, then the rent charges paid for that vehicles, we are talking about this rent charges, whether this rent charges will be exempt or what. So clarification is there. This rent charges will not be eligible for exemption. These are not exempt. This rent charges are not exempt. So this is the thing. Yes. Again, some things here regarding the rent itself. Vehicle, you are giving your vehicle on hire. To whom? To whom you are giving? To a state transport undertaking, a motor vehicle meant to carry more than 12 passengers, or to a local authority, an electrically operated vehicle meant to carry more than 12 passengers, to a GTA for transportation of goods, and to an education institution for the transportation of student, faculty and staff. So if you are giving your vehicle on hire for this purpose to such person, then only it will be exempt, otherwise taxable. This is another clarification on the same thing. Yes, we are just putting the points in front of us and we are just revising it. Yes, no explanation is there. We are just revising it as fast as possible. Now, next, health care services. See, when we are talking about healthcare services, there is a word healthcare. Sir, please tell us the meaning of healthcare first. Healthcare means you are doing DTC for double iPad. You are doing DTC for double iPad. Sir, DTC? Diagnosis, treatment and care. For what? Why you are doing the diagnosis? Why you are doing the treatment? Yes, why are you doing the care? For illness, injury, pregnancy, abnormality and deformity. Double iPad. So if you are doing DTC for double iPad, yes, DTC for double iPad in any recognized system of medicine in India. If you are doing DTC for double iPad using any recognized system of medicine in India, what are the recognized systems of medicines in India? Allopathy, yoga, naturopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha, Unani, or any being notified by the government, including service of transportation of patient to and from a clinical establishment, but it excludes hair transplant, cosmetic or plastic surgery. So this term will be called as healthcare service. Healthcare. Yes, this is called as healthcare. DTC double iPad through recognized system of medicine in India, including transportation of the patient to and from a clinical establishment, but exclude hair transplant, cosmetic and plastic surgery. So this is all about healthcare. Now, when we are discussing for this healthcare, there is a term hair transplant, cosmetic, plastic surgery. See, in this definition, this is excluded. But we can consider it. We can consider it if such things are being done to reconstruct or restore any anatomy or functions of a body affected due to any defects, development, abnormality, injury, etc. So, for example, if any person had a head injury and the doctor is performing the head surgeries, so after performing surgery, it may happen that he can do hair transplant. Yes, it may happen. Yes. So, in that case, we can consider this service as a healthcare. But if any hair transplant, cosmetic, plastic surgery done for the purpose of, say, any showcase, yes, any purpose of any looks, for the purpose of any look like Michael Jackson, like any person doing hair transplant to have hairs on the head, yes, only for the purpose of looks. In that case, it will not be covered under the healthcare service. But if done to cure any injury, to perform any injury, cure any injury, to perform, to restore, reconstruct any anatomy functions of a body. In that case, it will be termed as healthcare. And in the case of IVF, yes, everybody know the meaning IVF. It will be termed as healthcare. So, sir, what? Healthcare what? So, any healthcare service provided by clinical establishment, authorized medical practitioner, paramedics will be exempt. The meaning of healthcare we have seen here. Now, any clinical establishment, any authorized medical practitioner, any paramedics who is providing such healthcare services, the services will be altogether exempt. Yes, what is clinical establishments are hospitals, clinic, nursing home, etc. Authorized medical practitioner, the person who has been practicing as a doctor or as a medical practitioner because of any, say, certificate given him by the recognized system of medicines. Paramedics, these are health trainers, yes, healthcare trainers like nurses and physiotherapists, etc. Paramedics. After that, service provided by way of transportation in ambulance. Yes, ambulance service are also exempt. And any services by veterinary doctors. Yes, veterinary clinic, the doctors of the animals, services also exempt. Now, this is all about healthcare service. Now, we'll have some clarifications, services related to this. Now, when a person is admitted in the hospital, there is also a charge other than, say, for example, healthcare or treatment. There is a charge of room rent. Room charges are applicable. Yes, special ward, general ward, room charges are there. So in this case of room charges, if the room charges of the rooms except ICU, CCU, ICCU and NICU, you know the word ICU, so you can see it and have the meaning of ICU. It is a critical situation. So if there is ICU, CCU, ICCU and ICU, then the room rent of 5,000 rupees limit will not be applicable. But any room other than this given to the patient and the rent charge is more than 5,000 rupees per day, then exemption will not be given. It will be chargeable to tax. This is the thing. Now, any services provided by any senior doctor, senior consultant, technician, lab technician to that particular clinical establishment, so it will also be exempt. Yes. And the last one we have to discuss is about the food supply. Here, the food supplied. Any food supplied to the admitted patient. Hear it clearly. Any food supplied to the admitted patient on the direction of the doctor. Yes, on the advice of that doctor, nutrition. And that food is being serviced from such a canteen, which is the canteen of the hospital itself. The canteen is not outsourced to any other person. It is of the canteen is of the hospital itself. The hospital is running the canteen. In that case, only that food supplied will also be exempt with healthcare service. It will come under the composite supply of healthcare service, and along with the composite supply of healthcare service, it will be exempt as the principal supply is altogether exempt. But if the food is supplied to non-admitted patient or the attendant of that patient or any canteen which is outsourced by the hospital, not run by the hospital, in that case, it will be taxable. Yes, it will be differently taxable. So rent of any shops also is taxable. When you visit any hospital, you see that there is a medical in say on that entry itself of that hospital. Yes, that medical is paying any rent to the hospital. So the rent income is also, that transaction is also taxable under GST. Now this is all about the health care. Now the next is construction service provided by specified bodies. Now see any services like construction. So when we are talking about construction service, you can see that any pure labor contracts, service by way of pure labor contracts provided to government by any person under the Housing for All Urban Mission or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Under this yojana or mission, if any person providing any type of construction services as a pure labor contract to the government, it will be exempt. Or any electricity distribution utilities being supplied by way of construction or establishing any electric point at the same farmland of a particular farmer, like this. And after that, pure labor contracts, when a person is having a pure labor contracts from any other person for the purpose of construction of his own residential property as a single residential unit. Okay, in that case it is exempt. This you can read by yourself. Now Coming towards the next service, educational services. Now, educational services. Now, sir, when we are talking about the educational services, there is a term, educational institution. Now, see here, education services covers two things in it. Service supplied by educational institution, service supplied to educational institution. So there is a common word, educational institution. So let us know the meaning. Let us have the meaning of that term first. Education institution means any institution providing service by way of, yes, who is providing service by way of preschool education or higher secondary school education. Yes, it means schools. Education as a part of curriculum of obtaining qualification recognized by law means example colleges. Yes, they are providing you any qualification recognized by law. And third one, education as a part of approved vocational courses, education courses, approved vocational education courses means certified course, certificate course like this, approved vocational courses. So these are the educational institution if they provide these three types of educational services. If these three types of education services are provided by any institution, it will be termed as educational institution under the GST. Now, looking towards the education services, any services supplied by educational institution. See, when educational institution providing any types of service to its student, faculty and staff. Any service by education institution to the student, faculty and staff. We are not talking about supply of goods. We are talking about supply of service. So any services provided by the education institution to its student, faculty and staff will be exempt. Not supply of goods, supply of service. And any services by way of conduct of entrance examination against consideration in the form of entrance fee. Yes, any educational institution conducting any exam on behalf of any other person for an entrance fee or examination fee, that will be exempt. See, you have given your premises to an another institute for the conduct of examination. You are receiving anything for any consideration for that, that will be exempt. Yes. So this is all about service supplied by. This is all about service supplied by. Now we are going towards service supplied to education institution. Now any other person is going to supply education institution some services. We are going to talk about this. Yes. So see here, when we are talking about this thing, any services supplied to education institution by way of transportation of student, faculty, staff, catering services, any midday meal services sponsored by the government, security services, cleaning services, housekeeping services, which are being performed at that educational institution itself. In that case, if such services are provided to first educational institution, which educational institution? First education institution providing preschool education or higher secondary education. If any services provided in this first box to the first educational institution, then only it will be exempt. Say I am providing the transportation service to the second number of education institution, taxable. But the same is provided to the first education institution, it will be exempt. So remember this. Next, supply of online education journal or periodical. This should be supplied to the second educational institution. See, not first, not third, second. And the last one, service relating to admission to or conduct of examination by such institution. This service is provided to all institutions. This service provided to all institutions, it will be exempt, otherwise taxable. So this is all about the exemption part of educational. Now see, the main thing in it is that we have to bifurcate which institution is an educational institution. If we are knowing the proper meaning of a particular institution, which is education institution, then only you can apply this exemption. If this is not covered under the definition of educational institution, then it will not be exempt. So, sir, first thing is that we should determine which institution is the educational institution. Yes. Now, here are some examples. See, this example are in detail explained in the module itself. Yes, we can have from there also. Yes, but now as it is a rapid revision route, we are going to just revise it, just telling you directly the conclusion that the private ITIs and government ITIs supply food in mess and canteen, supply food in Anganwadis and schools, and any entrance fee for conduct of entrance examination for issuance of migration certificate, conduct of entrance exam by the board, say state board or CBSE board like this, All this will be exempt. I am also exempt. Indian Institute of Management, yes, this is also exempt because I am comes under the definition of educational institution. Yes, that's why it is exempt. And what is not exempt is this: unrecognized educational institutions. So we can have an example of private coaching classes. In these private coaching classes are unrecognized educational institutions. So they are not exempt because they are not education institution itself defined under GST. So in that case, this will be taxable. Now, any fees charged from prospective employers in relation to campus recruitments. In case of campus recruitments, if the college is charging any type of amount from that employers, so that amount will also be taxable under GST. Now, this is all about the educational institution part. Now, next thing, renting of residential dwellings. Now, when talking about the renting of residential dwellings, sir, we had a discussion on this also under the reverse charge, section number 12.3. Then when any person rent any residential dwelling to a registered person, reverse charge will be applicable and the registered person is going to pay tax. Now here, first of all, we'll talk about unregistered person. If any residential dwelling is given on rent to an unregistered person, now you have to check the purpose of that. If the purpose of that is for residential use, then it will be exempt. If that unregistered person is having a commercial use of the residential dwelling, then it will be taxable. But if it is having a residential use, then it will be exempt. Now, this is all about unregistered one. Now we can talk about the registered person. Sir, what about registered person? Sir, we know that for registered person, it is reverse charge mechanism. It is RCM, that is reverse charge mechanism. But this reverse charge can also be exempt if you satisfy two conditions. We are talking about registered person, it is a reverse charge, but this reverse charge can also be exempt if we are going to fulfill two conditions, basic conditions. What are the two conditions? You are going to use, the registered person is going to use for his own residence the premises. The residential dwelling is going to use for his own residence. And the payment also of that rent is from his own account, not from the business account. It should be paid from his own account. If these two conditions are being satisfied, then under RCM also this will be exempt. Otherwise, not. Otherwise, not. Now, this is all about the residential dwelling renting. Now coming towards government. There are two services provided to government also and service received supplied by government also. Supply means outward, received means inward. So see the list. The government list is very huge. Yes, we are going to revise it. Now, service supplied by the government. Now see here, you will see this. There is a very important word in this services, specified services. Now have a look on this. Service by the Department of Post and the Ministry of Indian Railways. Service in relation to an aircraft vessel inside or outside the presence of a port or airport. Transportation of goods or passengers. Any other service provided to business entity. Sir, all these terms we have already discussed in the reverse charge. Yes, see the list is this. When provided to business entity, any services excluding this three, it comes under reverse charge. Now we are going to analyze which are exempt and which are taxable. Now, first one, any services by municipality or panchayats, this will be exempt. Any services by government, excluding the specified one. Excluding the specified one. Yes, we have seen this A, B, C, D, E. These four services are specified service. So any services provided by the government other than the specified one will be exempt. It means that the specified services are taxable. Now, among the specified service, we are going to talk about the D. What is D? D is services provided to a business entity. Any services provided to a business entity. This we are going to discuss. Now see here. When government provide any services to a business entity whose aggregate turnover has not crossed the say basic threshold limits, or we can say that business entity is not liable to get registered under section 22. If not liable to get registered, then this reverse charge which has been given to the business entity, this reverse charge will get exempt. This is the thing. This is the thing. But what if the entity is registered under the section 22 of the Act? Then this reverse charge will be taxable and the business entity is going to pay the tax. This we are discussing only for point D. Now, any services provided from government to government means, say for example, central government providing any services to state government, or state government providing any services to local authorities, like this. So it will be exempt except this specified service A, B and C. Business entity we have already dealt with. Yes. Now A, B and C. So sir, if central government providing state government any services by way of Department of Post, it will be taxable. Of course, it will be taxable because these services A, B, C are excluded from this part of exemption. Now, next. Now, old age home. Yes, old age home. Old age home services provided by the government. These services will be exempt only if the consideration charge per member is 25,000 rupees per month. Yes, the consideration charge is 25,000 rupees per month. Else, this will be taxable. Any services provided by government to its public sector undertaking PSU. Yes, public sector undertaking, any service provided by government to its PSU, it will also be exempt. Or service of government by way of issuance of passport, visa, driving license, birth certificate, death certificate, etc., etc. This will also be exempt. Yes. And another important is this part of this Department of Post. Sir, this is Department of Post Services is already in the specified services. We have seen this that Department of Post Services are taxable, not exempt. But some services of Department of Post are exempt. Yes, what are that? Any services by way of postcard, inland letter, book post, ordinary post, where the envelope is weighing less than 10 grams. Where the envelope is weighing less than 10 grams. In such cases, it will be exempt. Now, this is all about the things. Yes, important things this were given. Now, provided to government. Provided to government. See, any services provided to government. Yes, any services. But if services are provided and it is a type of composite supply. Yes, service plus goods. So the goods should not form part of more than 25% of the total supply. Say if the supply is 100%, then out of this, at least 75% should be supply of service and 25% is supply of goods. Not more than 25% should be the supply of goods. Yes, this one is the thing. This one is the thing when talking about services provided to the government. After that, services provided by fair price shops. This term is very familiar in the case of ration card. Yes, in the case of ration card, the shop where you utilize the ration card and have ration at a have the grocery at very reasonable and very low prices, that shops are called as fair price shops. That shops are giving these services to the government, that we can allow your ration card here and will provide the subsidized rate to the public. So this is called as fair price shops. So this is also exempt. And coming towards last one, directly the amendment part. Any services provided to the government authority by way of water supply, public health, sanitation, conservancy, solid waste management, slum improvement and upgradation. Now, for the best example, I will give you the Swachhata Abhiyan vehicles coming in front of your home. गाड़ी वाला आया घर से कचरा निकाल. Yes, coming in front of him, he will take the dustbin waste with them and go for the waste management. Now, this services is not compulsory that it will be provided by the government. It is provided by the government, but it can be outsourced to other entity also. Yes, so government has outsourced to the other entity. Now, the other entity is providing the solid waste management service to the government, or say slum redevelopment service to the government, or public health service to the government. In that case it will be exempt, because government cannot do all these things alone. They need some private person also whom they can outsource these services, and their services are exempt when they are providing help to the government in fulfilling this types of services. So this is all about the government. Now, the important portion up till now, this government portion has been ended. Now this exemption are not so much important, but not so much important. Now we are going to directly discuss each and everything with their title name. Now banking and financial services. See, when we are talking about banking financial services, this statement we have observed many times. Services by way of extending deposit, loans or advances to any person insofar as the consideration is received in terms of interest or discount. Yes. So the interest or discount is the consideration for what you have performed your supply. So in this cases, it will be exempt. The interest will be exempt, but interest of credit card will not be exempt. And when we are talking about sale purchase of foreign currencies, say you are selling or purchasing foreign currency. So when it is done amongst the banks, amongst the dealers, or among bank and dealer, then only it is exempt. Yes, any charges charged, then only it will be exempt. Any currency exchange is done between the customer and the dealer, it will not be exempt. What is exempt is among us bank, among us the dealers, or one dealer or one bank. These are exchanging the currencies, then it will be exempt. So only this was important in these things. Now coming towards leasing services, business facilitator, we have already discussed this thing in the reverse charge. Sports event, organizing sports events like organizing Olympics, organizing say T20, organizing World Cups, like these things are all exempt if organized by a sports organization. Skill development service, yes, nowadays government is promoting more skill development services. So any person who is helping the government to fulfill this task of skill development, that services will be exempt. Yes. After that, leasing services, any services provided by way of leasing, where the leasing period is more than 30 years, it will be exempt. Yes, it will be exempt. And what will be exempt? Only the upfront payment will be exempt in case of lease. Yes, in case of lease, the upfront payment will be exempt only. Now, talking about insurance, life insurance, general insurance, you can see that in this you are going to have on the number of yojanas. Yes, see, Army, Naval Force, Yojana, Group Insurance, National Pension System, and say for example, Varishta Pension Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jivan Jyoti Bima Yojana. You are going to have the yojanas in this. So all this yojana you have to read once. I cannot explain yojanas, what are they and like these things. So it will be exempt. Now coming here, any services provided to recognized sports body. Yes, any sports body by way of a player, referee, umpire, coach, and team manager. The services of this person to a recognized sports body will be exempt. But services by person like selectors, commentators, curators, technical experts, these are not exempt. These are taxable. What is exempt? In only the provision of service by this person. Public library is exempt. Yes, no way of explaining these things. Now coming towards housing societies. Now there are many societies which perform their duties. Yes, and the very common term in this case of the societies, that the person who are the members of these societies pay some maintenance charges yearly or monthly to towards the maintenance of such societies. Yes, now we are talking about that charges, monthly maintenance charges, whether that will be exempt or taxable. Now first of all, see that this unregistered RWA has exceeded the threshold limit of that aggregate turnover. In short, now it is liable for registration under section 22. Now it is liable for registration under section 22. Now if this housing society is liable for registration under section 22, yes. Now check whether the per member monthly maintenance charges is more than 7,500. Check it. If it is more than 7,500, then it will be taxable. You have to check whether both the conditions are fulfilled. First condition, that it has crossed the threshold limit. Second, 7,500 exceeding is the members monthly charges. If these two are satisfied, then it will be taxable. If not satisfied, any one of this condition is not satisfied, then it will be exempt. If any one of this condition is not satisfied, then it will be exempt. These are the two conditions, both should be satisfied. Now this is all about the things and the other exemptions. Other exemptions are not too much relevant with the examination point of view. The exemption which are important from the examination point of view, that we have covered very quickly, and where possible we have also we have went in a detailed explanation of some things. Now in this some things we are going to highlight only. Say, provision of service by Right to Information Act, RTI Act, Right to Information Act. This is exempt. Public conveniences provision of service by way of public conveniences. This is also exempt. Yes. Say any services provided by way of providing any news, collecting any news by journalists, press, trust of India, like this. Any journalist services, any press services, these are also exempt, like this. So these are the basic services which are not so much important. You may have a reading of all the services. Yes. And the things we have discussed up till right now are more than enough for this revision of that exemption chapter. So this is how we have completed a revision of this chapter, exemption chapters. Yes, the main important exemptions we have covered here. Yes, not the other exemptions we have covered in this video. Other exemption you can read by your own if you want to read it. If you don't want to read it, then also not so important. Yes. So here we have completed chapter, and meet you in the next video of the next chapter. Up till that, bye bye to all of you. Hello students, I am here with the announcement for all of you. We are launching our regular batches of CA Intermediate Taxation from 21st of September, and CA Foundation all subject batches from 25th of September, and that too in 100% English language and at a very shocking price. Do you want to know that shocking price? So you can contact on the given number and have the details of this batch. Up till that, bye bye to all of you.